Magdalene. Woman, no need to search any longer, the priestess of wealth. Woman, it is time to heal thyself.
Welcome, Lisa. I'm so glad to have you here with us in this Women's International Summit, the Women Rising International Summit. It's really a pleasure and an honor to have you with us. And I know Kathy has been saying all these incredible things, and I'm so excited for you to share with all of us, and for me even to find out about you and to know what you're about. But I know you and your Women's Executive coach. And can you tell me a little bit about that? Because that's kind of, I guess you work with people there in the high businesses and stuff like that, correct? In the high profile businesses.
So I actually work with women who, whether they have that title or not, because I believe you can be seen as a leader, no matter what your title is. If you have a solution in a crisis and you can execute it, you're a leader. If you can motivate and inspire other people, you're a leader. So I work with in the corporate arena, and they're called high potentials, which is such a corporate speak. But these are people who want to advance up the ranks of management. And I also work with women at senior management who want to get into the C-suite. Because unfortunately, in this country, there are less than 10% of the CEOs. I think it's about 7% are women. And that's just not right. I mean, women have this very collaborative, consultative, empathetic way of leading. We have high emotional intelligence. And what's really interesting in the corporate arena is when you have leaders that are emotionally intelligent, there's actually a greater return to the bottom line and higher employee engagement. So like we're doing better business with emotionally intelligent leaders. So my goal is to just help women get into those higher ranks of management so they can be the change that makes the difference and make the change that brings the difference.
That's amazing, because for a long time, the emotional part of the women, it wasn't so respected or so wanted, correct? And because we're so, and our emotions, I don't think they should be hidden. I think it's more expressive, and we can get things done through emotion, because we are very quick of really dealing with a lot of stuff simultaneously because of those emotions. Can you tell me about how that really, in the beginning could have been like an obstacle for the women, but how you are able to coach them through that? How are you able to make them really love their emotions and understand their emotions for the right reasons instead of hiding them?
So emotions, actually, that whole phrase, emotional intelligence, now I'm going to get off on a little tangent, so reel me in, but the female brain actually has more connections between the two lobes. So our right side is the creative, design, musical, inspirational lobe, and the left is the logical linear. But because we've got so many neural pathways, we can access both. And actually women are much more empathetic. So if you were talking to an engineer, you wouldn't talk the same way you'd talk to someone who was in marketing, who was doing creative work. And one of the things that women are really good at, and big business is starting to understand this, is that we can modify how we communicate. I call it the inside voice and the outside voice, or the at-home voice and the at-work voice. And so the one thing that women can learn is when they go into a meeting, instead of saying, oh, I've got this great idea, what do you think? I've got this great idea that I know we can execute, and it is going to help our business grow. There's none of that I think or what do you think? So it's just a little modification in communication. And yeah, it takes a little bit of thought, but the example that I use is when you have a kid, you say, okay, let's use the inside voice. We're inside the house now. And when we're outside, we can use the big voice. And it's the same when you're at work versus when you're at home.
Well,
so
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to say what you said and to understand the difference, correct? Because once we are very secure of who we are, we can actually say it very securely. And that's the part, like, I have a great idea and I know I can make it happen. And that is the key. I think that is an amazing key that a lot of women are missing, because we're still trying to kind of go behind, what do you think? We still try to take the,
And which works.
yes.
Right.
We get better ideas when we say, what do you think?
Mhm.
But, in the business world, it's male dominated. It was set up by men. And if you just think about, as kids, we played Tea Party. Everybody got a seat at the table. Everybody got the cookie. Boys played King of the Hill. They shoved each other off, and then they'd come back up and they'd shove the next person off. So we're hardwired differently.
Yes.
Mm.
And we just need to acknowledge it. And difference is great, but we need to listen to all the perspectives to get to the better solutions, because we just have the one perspective. It's just one perspective.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know today you're going to talk to us about Grace Grit and getting it done, which we're really excited to hear about, but really about sort of as women, how we claim our power and put ourselves out there in this very organic way, and
Yes.
not feeling like we have to transform or conform to these sort of norms, but that we get to redefine it. And I think that that's really exciting. So we're very excited to sort of have you share that process with us today. So if you wanted to kind of introduce a little bit about what your journey was, and then how what you're gonna take us on today.
Okay. My journey, I actually started out as a performing artist years ago. I got some mileage on me. And I injured myself doing a music video. I was a dancer, and I was like, uh-oh, at the age of 30, no health insurance, couldn't walk, sprained hip. And I fell backwards into working in television. I met a woman at a party who said, do you know what time code is? Because I'm producing this big campaign that's a sweepstakes, and I've got a lot of tapes, and I need someone to screen them. And I was like, I'm there as long as there's no stairs. I need the elevator. I can't walk right now. So I started working in television, which a lot of performing artists do, because TV or screen is like a proscenium arch, like a stage. And I was in my first job, and I started realizing that the manager I worked for was not great at communicating. And so one of my big things is clear communication and transparency and integrity. And that can run into conflicts in a corporate arena. So I had to get really clear on what I was trying to say and how I wanted to do it. But I knew if I got into a leadership role that I could actually do better business, because everybody would understand what their role was and what part they played in driving the business forward. And then at the end of my career, the last 10, I was an executive in a sports television. So Boys Club. And that was super interesting. Yeah. So you can imagine all those stories, but I had the good fortune to work with the HR team, and I started a mentoring program there, which specifically got more women into management roles. And so getting women into leadership, I got myself into a leadership role, and I want to do that with other women because I think they make better leaders. They focus on the greater good, not you. That's how they make their decisions. So and now I have my own business, Big Sky Coaching and Consulting. And I am about to launch a podcast, which is actually called Grace, Grit, and Getting It Done, because as women, we have an inherent grace. We're compassionate, and we want to make things better. But we also have that grit that we just roll up our sleeves and we're like, we're going to get it done. We don't know how, but we're going to do it. So that's how it all came together for me.
Oh, that's great.
That's amazing. That's great.
So we're
go ahead, Kathy.
I was just gonna say, so we're excited to hear about what the process is for Grace Grit and getting.
Okay, great. Can I share my screen? I've got
Sure.
a little presentation. I made some graphics. I love to make graphics.
I need to make you co-host. Just a second. Okay.
You should be able to now, Lisa.
Yeah. There we go. Can you unmute yourself too, Lisa?
And let me go to full screen here so you don't see my messy desktop. Let me move this over to here.
It's a
There we
creative
go.
desktop.
Well, this is the thing, as women, we're visionaries,
Yes.
we're creative problem solvers,
Exactly.
and we can create life, right? So those are some pretty potent, powerful things, which is why when you follow your North Star, you actually get that great clarity where you can stand and access your feminine power.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and start.
Yes.
And I got a couple questions. Are you clear on your highest priorities? Or do you sometimes push them to the back of the line because you're helping someone else achieve their priorities? Are you acting in alignment with your highest values? Or do you sometimes ignore them because you're saying yes to every request? Well, you're not alone, and you're in the right place because you're here at this fantastic summit with all sorts of women sharing all sorts of fantastic ideas. And what I want to share with you today are some strategies to identify your priorities, get your actions to line up with your highest values, and move forward to create your vision. Keep your North Star in focus and access that divine feminine source we have in all of us. So let's jump in. There's a workbook. If you have it, great. If you don't, just get a couple pieces of paper and a pen because you're going to want to take some notes. And at one point, I may ask you to pause this video if you need a little bit more writing time, but it's all here. So if you don't have the workbook, no problem. If you do, great. Otherwise, get some pieces of paper. So let's jump in. My mentor has this great story that she tells, and I want to share it with you. She says that when a man is asked to do the impossible, and you can see on the bottom of this page, impossible is a big word used by small minds that don't have vision. So my mentor says, I know, I don't know who said this quote. She used it, but she cited it as someone else, and I couldn't remember. But my mentor, whose name is Dr. Lois Frankel, who is brilliant, when a man is asked to do the impossible, he'll do three things. Well, the first thing he's going to say is, oh, well, that's impossible. Okay. And I know we've all heard that before. The second thing he may say is, well, I can do part of that by next month, but the rest of it, no, that's impossible.
Mm.
You know what the third thing he'll say? Let me go ask a woman to help me. And he'll pick up the phone and he'll call a woman. It's true. I've seen it. Now, you know what a woman does? She goes, well, I'm not sure how we're going to do this, but let me figure it out. And she rolls up her sleeves and she dives in, which is an awesome trait to have. Because when you're a thought leader and a creative problem solver, you can do anything. But here's what I want to give you all watching this permission to do today and tomorrow and the next day, is to take that energy, that wisdom, and honor your priorities and act in alignment with your highest values. And be able to say at times, I would love to help you, but I don't have the bandwidth and I don't want to disappoint you. I know you can figure this out. So you might want to write that down because this works every time. I'm sorry I can't help you. I don't have the bandwidth, but I know you can figure it out. Big smile. Because you might want to say something like, you're asking me again? How many times? No, and that doesn't really help anybody. But try that instead. So today we're going to talk about 3 tools. The first one is the North Star query. And I've actually been using this. It's 3 simple questions for so long. I can't tell you the first time I used this. But it's really about diving into your priorities and getting really clear. The second exercise we're going to do, I call it the values assessment. This graphic says core values, but these are really your guiding principles, your guiding values, your highest values. When I was talking just a little bit earlier, I had mentioned that one of my guiding values was communication integrity and transparency, because my background is corporate. And a lot of times senior management is not clear on their vision. They're not clear on the communication, and they don't tell you that. They make something up, which just makes everything kind of a bigger knot that needs to be unraveled. So when you're clear on your highest values, you can ask yourself, is agreeing to this request or taking on this project in alignment with my highest values? And it's clear. You're going to know exactly what to do. And then the last exercise I want to review with you, I call it the 4 domains. So if anybody is an astrologer, you can see how it kind of follows the earth signs, water signs, air signs, fire signs. And it's also based in the work of Bessel van der Kolk. He's a somatic psychologist. He wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score, and very, very simplifying it. When we experience trauma, our prefrontal cortex will forget it, but our body will remember it. And if we experience that trauma again, not only do we get triggered in the most primitive part of our brain, our limbic system, our limbic brain in the back, our body gets triggered. So we want to pay attention to not only our thoughts, but our heart and our body and our spirit, which is where that divine feminine power resides. We want to check in with all 4 of those domains. So get to your workbook, and we're going to go to page 3, I believe. Yes, I'm sorry, page 2. I have it here, it's printed out, but you can use paper. So CPR for the soul. I had a client who was the head of PR for a very large hospital in the Bay Area in March of 2020. So we're on the other side of the pandemic, I think, but in March 2020, things were very scary because we really didn't know what was going on. We didn't know how COVID was spread. There were a lot of confusions and questions. And so this client termed CPR for the soul, and I just took it and ran with it and developed it a little bit more. CPR, I forgot the C because I'm thinking self-compassion. CPR, pulmonary resuscitation. I forgot what the C was, but I'm using C.
Cardio.
Cardio, heart. I did the little brain fart. What can I say? So heart, cardio, that's feeling the self-compassion. That's being able to say, wow, I'm dealing with a lot of things outside my control. I can manage what's inside my control. And then remembering to take the breath, pulmonary, because breath is a magic reset. For those of you who do yoga, study pranayama, for those of you who are really advanced in yoga and are very good with Ujjayi breath. And we started our meeting today before we started recording with just some deep breathing. So the next time you're faced with an emergency, maybe not of your making, or a crisis, not of your making, take a deep breath, let the body reset, let the brain focus. And then the R, resuscitation, is resilience. And that's the practice of self-care. What happens when you start to prioritize other people's needs over your own is you actually reduce your capacity to be at your full potential. So when I talk about essential resources, I am talking very simply sleep, food, water, exercise, self-reflection, time in nature, and meditation or prayer. These are really the non-negotiables. And if you're not thinking about filling up your tank, then at some point you are going to run out of gas because you're helping everybody else and you're going to suffer burnout. And when you're burned out, end game. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that pattern, but I just want you to give yourself permission today to remember sleep, food, water, exercise, self-reflection, time in nature, and prayer or meditation. These are the essentials. So let's talk about setting your intention, because you probably had an intention where you heard about this summit. You're like, oh, I need to get online and watch that. Or even maybe coming to this particular training, you thought, oh, that could be helpful. So just take a minute, go to page 3 of your workbook or get a piece of paper and just write down really quickly, first thing that pops in your mind, why did you decide to take the time to watch this? What motivated you? Really quickly. And then what's your biggest challenge around self-care? Is it time management? I know it is for me. I know it is for me. It's not enough time in the day. And then think to yourself, if I could set one boundary that would help me manage that challenge, and maybe you're not even sure what the boundary is, but you know you want to set it related to this challenge. Just scribble down something. And then here's the really important thing you want to write down. How will setting this boundary help me practice daily self-care? I just want to use myself as an example. I'm Italian descent, and there is, my mom came over on the boat with her parents, and there is Mr. Tomato, Signor Pomodoro, and it's the Pomodoro method. And literally what it is when you sit at your computer or at any task, no more than 45 minutes. Set your phone. You know, we all have these and we all spend too much time on these. Set your phone for 45 minutes. And then when it dings, get up, walk around, drink a glass of water. If you have kids or if you have pets, go engage with them. If you have an opportunity to go outside and look at the sky, do that. Just 10 minutes of not being at your desktop or whatever task you're doing. And then return and do another 45 minutes. That was how I set a boundary, because otherwise I would not move from here. And that's not a good thing. So that's how I set my boundary. Now, I would suggest too, take a screen grab of this, because you're going to want to come back to this in a day or two and write whatever that day's challenge is. Because let's acknowledge challenges change every day, as do priorities. And we're going to talk a little bit more about all of this. So here's the North Star query. And I call it this because when we really are clear about what we want, it's like a North Star guiding us. And what's so interesting is when we truly do identify what we want, not what someone tells us, not what we think we should want, or what we think we're supposed to have at a certain age, or because we're in a certain industry or whatever it might be. But when we get clear about what we really want, the obstacles tend to fall away. It's crazy the way that works. So ask yourself, and this is on page 3 of your workbook or on your piece of paper, what do you want? With the understanding, when you wake up in the morning, most likely what you want is to get out of bed, get your day started. If you have kids, get them dressed, get them fed, get them clothed, get them off to school or wherever they might be going or whatever they might be doing. And then about an hour later, your priority changes again to, okay, now I'm working. What do I need to get done? But take an even higher view. Go to the 1,000-mile view. I bet that what you want to do is make the world a better place. You may even have some specific idea about how you want to do that. You might also want to take care of your family. And you may need a regular JOB to do that because you need the health insurance. Whatever it is, just think about the big picture and write down what you want. And then consider what is going to be different. And by that, I mean, how will you think differently when you achieve this thing you want? And how will you feel differently when you achieve this thing you want? I know I wanted to start my own business. I wanted to work with women and help them climb up the ranks of management so that they could be in leadership roles and actually make the change that brings the difference. And what made me think about wanting that was because I knew I would feel like I was contributing, because I'd been in corporate and I knew the ropes. I knew how hard it was as a woman. I never made it to the C-suite because I looked at my company and I saw, yeah, they're all men and their names are John, Bob, Richard, or what was the other one? I think one was Larry, whatever. And I wasn't going to get there, but I know other women can do it. So I know now I feel great when I work with women who get promotions and climb the management ladder. And I think, wow, I'm contributing to changing the world. So that's what's driving me. Now, this is the interesting part. is what you want, what you wrote down, in alignment with your highest values. We're about to talk a little bit more about values, but I just want to use myself again as an example. My values are communication, integrity, connectedness, respect. Those are the ones that are overriding. For me, when I connect with women and give them some tools so that they could advance in their career, I feel like not only is communication better, but I'm standing in my integrity of knowing that they're going to be emotionally intelligent leaders who are making decisions based on what is the greatest good, not what is going to benefit the chosen few. So let's dive into values, because I bet a couple of you are, we're going to talk about, well, let me jump ahead one, or I'll come back to this. So your values, this is not a complete list. In fact, you may go, well, you know what? I've got the value of, let me think of a value that's not here. I'm sure there is one. Happiness. I want the people around me to be happy. That's important. I think that is really important. It's not on this list. So just take a minute, circle some things, or write down, just pick a couple. You may come back to this. In fact, I hope you do if you have the workbook, because you're going to want to look every day. But pick 3 or 4 and just think about why those are values that guide you in your day-to-day, why they're important to you. And now let me go back to priorities, which I skipped over. I put these into 4 buckets. And there's going to be some more, I'm sure. But just a top line, your priorities could be your family. I talked about when you're getting ready to go out for the day, getting up out of bed. If you have children, a priority is going to be getting them fed, getting them dressed, getting them ready to go out to whatever they're going to do, to go to school. Maybe your priority is your community. Maybe if the kids are out of the house and you're now, no children at home, you're reaching out, you're doing volunteer work. You're working with organizations to support their efforts. Maybe that's the focus. Or maybe it is your career. Maybe it's your professional development. Or more importantly, maybe it's your personal development. Maybe, and I'm going to drop a heavy phrase here, but I'm not joking with this phrase. Maybe you are on the path to enlightenment, knowing that as human beings, we are perfectly imperfect, but that should not stop us from trying to reach our full potential. So just think about what your priorities are. Yeah, they're going to change. They're going to change as you go through the phases of your life. They'll change within one day. But again, take the 1,000-mile view. What is the biggest priority? For me, number 1 is my loved ones, family, friends. And number 2 is getting more women into leadership roles. Because as I said, I know, the Dalai Lama said in 2010 that Western women were going to save the world. And you know why? Because we have the intention, we have the resources, and we have the mindset. And we're creative problem solvers, like every woman. So we've got the time to do it. So just think about what your priorities may be, and then think about those priorities and how they line up with your guiding values, principles. How is it that when you live in accordance with your values, you are actually reaching that higher self? I want to talk briefly now about the pattern of burnout, because this is a big issue. And we know I'm kind of a research geek. I'll just acknowledge it. I am a research geek. Through the pandemic, 7 out of 10 women acknowledged that their levels of burnout and stress had increased exponentially, like 60 to 70%, whereas only 3 out of 10 men felt their level of stress. Well, let's consider this for a minute. All right, now I'm going to show my bias. So dad's at home and dad says, nobody talks. I'm on a Zoom call. Mom's at home. She's on a Zoom call. The baby starts crying. There's the baby. Okay, let's just acknowledge that. But with burnout, we found through the pandemic, it really did increase. And again, I want to say, if you let yourself get into that spiral, thinking that, oh, that's okay, I didn't eat lunch, I'm strong enough, I'll get through, or oh, I've got a headache, I need to drink some water. That's okay. I'll do it in an hour. You have to recharge yourself. You have to. So here's the little trick our mind plays. As women, we are really powerful and we're great at helping others reach their own potential. But we sometimes think that we can control things that are actually beyond our control. True story. I wore a pair of leather boots a couple weeks ago and it started raining. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I wore these boots in the rain. They're not waterproof. Oh my God. Well, I didn't know it was going to rain that day and I blamed myself. So let's just acknowledge not everything is within our control. Let's be mindful, right? I know it's so hard because we think if we just think the right thoughts, we can change anything. And we can, working together, but there are things beyond our control. So if you have unreasonably high standards that you're only judging yourself by, just stop it. Just stop it. It is not serving you and it's not serving the people you love or the people who you want to support. When you judge yourself harshly, the self-blame starts. And then there's the guilt. Oh my God, I'm bad. How could I have done that? Or the shame. Oh, they think I'm bad. And when they come together like a big knot, and then we start the denial. That's okay, I didn't eat. I'll eat later. Oh, I didn't get enough sleep last night. Oh, I'll catch up on the weekend. No, you would not do that to any good friend, which is why I came over here to the creative visualization. And this is a question you need to ask yourself. How can I show myself the same compassion, care, and respect I show to my loved ones? Just a tiny little visualization. If a good friend called you up and said, hey, I really need to speak to you. I've got this problem. I know you dealt with something similar a year or two ago and you figured it out and I want your advice. I need your help. Can we meet for you to help me? You of course would say yes.
Mm.
And when you went to meet your friend, I bet the first thing you do is you throw your arms around your friend, you give him a big hug. And as you lean back, just imagine you're looking into your own eyes. What do you want to share with yourself? Yeah, you can figure this out. Not anything about self-blame or guilt or shame or why haven't you figured this out? You would never say that to a friend. Don't say that to yourself. It's not serving you. It's not serving the people you love. And it's not serving the people you want to support. You need to be at 100%. Let's keep going. Oh, this is my favorite one. I love this because it's such an easy way. If you are asked to do something and have you ever been asked a direct question and you know you cannot give the answer because the answer is not what the other person wants to hear? It's usually something like, wow, doesn't my home ec dress look fantastic? And, one sleeve is shorter than the other and the zipper's in sideways and you kind of, your throat closes up, right? That's what happens to me. My throat closes up. So you want to ask yourself, if you're asked, like making a big commitment, making a big decision, what is my body doing? Does it feel comfortable or uncomfortable?
Mm.
Is it relaxed or, are my shoulders up here? That's a good sign. Take a beat, take a breath, let the other person know, I'm not ready to make this decision. Let me come back to you and move away from the situation. Your body, that's why the book that Bessel van der Kolk wrote called The Body Keeps the Score, because it does not lie. This will lie to us. This will confuse us. The body does not lie. So just ask yourself, does my body feel comfortable or relaxed? Is it tense? What's going on in my body? Is there a pain anywhere? Then touch base with your heart. Are my emotions positive or negative? We all have those people in our lives that when we see them coming towards us, we kind of want to hide, right? And we have those other people in our lives that when we see them coming towards us, we reach out our arms to embrace them. So touch in with your emotions and ask yourself, in honoring this request, am I feeling good about it or am I not feeling good about it? In agreeing to this venture or this project, what are my emotions doing? How am I feeling? And thought, are my thoughts focused or jumbled? We all can get into that rabbit hole of, I'm not good enough. How could I do this? Oh, I made a mistake. Or the other rabbit hole of, what's going to happen to my child when I'm gone? Are they going to be able to take care of themselves? Or what happens to my elderly parent if I'm not around and they take a spill? All sorts of things we can get wrapped up in. But again, take that breath to refocus and ask yourself regarding this one request that's being made of you. Am I thinking clearly about this, or am I really confused? If you're confused, take a time out, go drink a glass of water, get some air in, sit in silence for 3 minutes, whatever you need to do. That is telling you not to move forward. And this is the most important part, because this is fire, our higher self, our spirit. This is how we access our feminine divinity within. This is getting that grace so that we can also use that grit, that earth quality, to get things done. Fire, our higher self, our soul, our spirit, is honoring this request in alignment with my highest values, with my guiding principles. You will know right away if you should say yes or not. Now, not every request needs this level of depth of analysis, but some will. Maybe you're considering a move, a new job, committing a partnership, whether it's romantic or business, a friendship, whatever the big decisions are, you want to do this check. And then you also want to make sure through this entire process, essential resources. I love this little logo because it's an idea, but it's also a plant, which is earth. And it's also using water because plants need water to grow, right? So just consider, you need sleep. You need food, nutrition. You need water, hydration. You need to move your body and exercise. You need to spend time outside in nature. You need to self-reflect. And yeah, you have to realize, whatever you want to call it, and many people are comfortable with source. Some people are more comfortable with goddess, creative intelligence, whatever your term. We're not here randomly. So whatever you want to call it, just know that there is an abundant source of energy that you can tap into that is much bigger than you. So you can step in your feminine power. And when you do, the sky becomes clear and your North Star shines so brightly. It's really amazing the way it works. But it's a process. It's never one and done. Just like reaching our potential is a process. We're never going to reach perfection, but we can get closer to that full expression of our full potential as human beings. So I was so excited to be here. And I just want to do my little pitch for my podcast, which is Grace Grit Getting It Done. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me, lisa@bigsky.coach. And the reason I called my company that is because when you see the big picture, you will find the opportunities. This was so much fun. I have to say, I've been looking forward to this for like, when Kathy and I had this conversation, I was like, yes, wow, I so want to do this. So.
Well, it's great to hear that. And I love how you kind of put it into some very concrete things that people can kind of do. And I think that we do all struggle with some of those blocks and putting ourselves first, and sort of that dichotomy between, you know, how to listen to ourselves and what we need, and but also sort of participate and connect and work with others. And so how do we stay true to our North Star, I think is very important to be, even knowing how to recognize it, I think can be a challenge. And even when we do recognize it and we're doing it, we get thrown off track so easily. And, you know, and finding that balance between sort of being connected, being centered, having that energy, and then also knowing how to put it into the world and navigate that back and forth without being thrown off of our core center. So I thought that was really, you know, great. Some really great concrete tools for us to use. So that was wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much, because you know, sometimes we do so much stuff that we don't even recognize. And once we recognize it, then we go, aha, but then we forget in the process again, you know, we get in the daily and then we go, oh, okay, I got to recognize this. And then we keep going through this process, which is really amazing. And the more we go through this process of recognition, it doesn't matter how many times we fall off the horse, as we say.
Correct.
It doesn't matter. We got to keep going to recognize ourselves, and really using these tools. It would just help us continue recognizing who we are and what we need to do for ourselves first. You know.
Well, and I will say, this is a compliment to you, Zeffie. Zeffie and I have been business partners for a while now, and I am definitely in that like getting it done part. And Zeffie reminds me of the grace part, because
Well, you guys are in such an awesome partnership.
it's a good
right?
combo, because
Yeah.
I need a little bit of that grace, you know. So
Oh, you have it, honey. You
no,
do.
but
I
it's
know.
good to be reminded. Zeffie knows exactly what I'm talking about, I think.
Flow, you know, she's amazing in what she does and the ideas and everything she brings in the table. And for us to do all this work together for the past, I don't know, 4 years or something, the last 4 years.
For a
we've been
while
doing
now,
the
yeah.
Rising, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, just like allow it to happen.
But it's so
Because I flow and she just makes things happen in the sense of like, you know, puts it on paper and we can look at it. I'm like, let's just let it flow. So it's good. It's all good. It all works. And I think another thing that women, we need to realize that every aspect of ourselves that someone else might have, and do it, I don't want to say better or worse, but do it. There's something
Different.
that we not do it different. You know what I mean? Something that we don't want to do. Is okay to allow other women to help us and to do it with them. And to
Oh
me,
my
that's the
gosh.
key.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not a good in the computer, so I'll let someone else do the computer. You know what I mean? I'm not very good in writing, so Kathy would take the writing.
That's
So,
being strategic. That's
yeah,
awesome.
but it's
Very
also
strategic.
loving each other and accepting each other for who we are, instead of saying, no, I'm going to do it all. There's no way we can get it all done. There's just no time of a day. You know, we need not 24 hours in a day. We actually need 78 hours in a day.
Yeah, at least.
Get something done, at least, exactly. So it's very important to
I
also
will say with
that.
the air, water, fire, earth, like that, I really appreciated that, because I'm very into sort of astrology and that the like what each of those elements represent there, and in so many other forms, Chinese medicine as well. But I thought it's really interesting, because I think sometimes we check in with one part and we forget to check in with the other parts.
Correct.
And the other part might scream at us when we don't, you know, so.
Exactly. And that's what has happened, you know, to many of us. I mean, I've experienced it, where you get to a point where your body just goes, okay, now you're going to get sick. I'm going to shut you down. You should have had enough sleep. And now let me give you like, you know, a cold or something, or I know with me, it's my joints. Yeah. It's like,
And
okay,
also,
now you're flat.
and then also the elements exist within our bodies anyway. It's part of our body, the earth, fire, wind, ether.
Exactly.
It is in our body. So as long as we get to recognize that also. So that was amazing. Lisa, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lisa.
Amazing.
I had so much fun putting this together, and I'm so honored to be part of this. And I just really appreciate both of you. And I'm so glad I finally got to meet you, Zeffie. It's, you know, I've known Kathy for a while and have such great respect and admiration for her. And she has talked so highly of you. And I thought, oh, I need to meet that woman. So I got a lot of boxes checked today.
I'm so excited that we had you, and this was an honor for us to rise together and just to get to the next level. And we have a lot more stuff to do. This is just the sample, correct? This is just very much
just getting started.
So
Awesome.
thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.